One skate, I'm saying V2. Okay, so with the one skate, and actually with all of our skate techniques, the biggest emphasis is on work and relax, and having two very distinct motions that way, as opposed to a sort of a constant work phase when you're moving through. So certainly with the biggest emphasis that we're working on is when you're coming through the one skate is the high arms, the upright body. And you find with the upright body it brings the hips under as opposed to really being focused on a big lean, because that tends to cause the butt to go back so as you plant. And then it's an impulse down through this pole, down through the skis.
So I see you going down through your ankles and knees, is that right?
Yeah, not a break at the hips.
Okay.
Yeah, I think of it kind of like a pogo stick.
Oh, that's good.
That you're a human pogo stick, so you have this nice high position, and you come down on your stick, and then boom, you're off to the other side. It's like you're bouncing over almost. But it's all right down through the ski, one motion.
Okay.
No extra.
So not the big flexion at the hips.
Right.
What about two skate? Are you guys, is it the same deal?
Continuation of that.
Okay.
It's sort of, it's the high hands. It's a really, and you watch, who did we watch on TV the other day? It was a German up front.
Right?
Was it Unger?
Yeah.
It was leading out a pursuit, and the whole train of them, and you don't realize until you look for it. Their hands are swinging up to the height of their heads, at least.
Over there.
And it's this little dunk, it's right here, and then it's over, and that's your rest phase, and then back, and it's just this little impulse. And so one of the drills we do in the weight room, I know you like drills, is we sit and we just go. It's a little lateral bound. I'm afraid to fall on these, but we just, and it's just to get the idea of that impulse with the brake and that impulse. But yeah, there's no bending here with the V1 or sorry V2 or one skate.
And also keeping the motion really straight down the hill. You don't want to get any extra twisting. So when you're going to get the weight over, you don't want to let your body twist at all to try to get your weight over. You want the body to go totally over together. So your shoulders and your hips are kind of square going down the hill.
You're in line with the direction of motion,
Yeah,
not in line with the skis. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the big thing, and it carries over even with so it's that impulse. Like, because I used to just sort of pull through them, and I got here with my hands, then I sort of step over, and now it's just a tink, tink, and it's a very relaxed. It's almost, I compare it to running. It's almost like when you see them, you drive out of the blocks and you get up tall, and it's just the foot touches, and the foot touches, the foot touches. There's not a real long phase on the ground.
So for the cyclist, it's like spinning as opposed to grinding big gears.
Yeah.
And even when you're going all out, top speed, it's still a float and relaxed movement.
Yeah, there's a real good shot of Northwood. What was that at the World Championships when he took off on the relay? And when he just takes off and puts 100 meters on them in the last 500 meters, and you just see it, and he's just carrying it. And he's literally
so
just.
Quick.
So the biggest part of your impulse is probably happening in the first 20 or 30% of the
No question.
of the action.
Yep.
No question.
Okay.
In the very end, it's just kind of a relaxed release of the muscles.
Okay.
And one of the ways that, since you've been doing this for a bit, but it's all new to me in the last 3 months, is to finish my hands here.
As opposed to back here.
For the one skate.
Yeah.
Because then I can get my hands back to here and I can crunch, because the motion's finished. So to go back here, it's gonna have me start to bend down.
Okay.
With offset or V1, the biggest idea, Eric's biggest thing is dancing on the skis, and one of the things is, and I get nailed for it, and it's the way we were taught in the 90s, was when you came onto this ski, you pulled, and you do that sort of U. And his biggest thing is, once you feel your foot underneath you, you've planted your foot's underneath you, we should be starting to go here. And then right back over again. And if you could eliminate the upper body, you'd see the same push from both legs, as opposed to a grinded, sort of stand up and then back over.
Yeah, you kind of have a constant angle with your body. It's not too far over. It's not too upright. It kind of depends a little bit on the angle of the hill. but you're just kind of in this constant movement. It's on the ski, off the ski, on the ski, off the ski. So you're spending equal amount of times on each leg, and it's just, if you just watch the body, it just kind of goes like this. Just
Do you guys ever think of getting on an outside edge to get onto a flat ski, or is that?
I think as a drill, if that's an issue with someone, then that would be a concern. I talked about it with them the other day because we were talking about some other another club in town that they all ski bow-legged, and they said it was too much to be a genetic thing. There was too many of them skiing that way for it to be genetic, and that I said, well, you know, I've been told before to get on that flat ski, to have your, you know, especially with the one skate, right, they talk about leading with your hip, and that way you come down, but that's not something that comes up because it doesn't seem to be an issue with anybody.
Okay.
So we just haven't seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if you think about your hips kind of doing this little constant S up the hill, and your ankle falling right underneath that, it takes care of itself. And it's really important to have good flex, a good angle at the ankle.
How are you?
Too straight there, your hips go back, and it's a lot harder to get over your ski.
Have you seen anything that coaches are doing to get people to get that ankle angle?
Well, our coaches had us do some work on a pretty steep uphill, and they just had us really over-exaggerate it, like sink lower and lower and lower.
This is on roller skis or on
Snow on the
snow?
On snow, but you could do it on roller skis
Yeah.
too, just skiing up a hill super exaggerated and just trying to go lower and lower. And you hit a certain point, if you're going to keep getting lower, you have to go with your ankles. You can't just rely on the knee angle. So that's a good one, because then you realize, well, yeah, the lower I get, the more dynamic I can get my lower body, and the easier that float becomes. So, but oftentimes you think you're really low, and then you see it on video, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm standing straight up.
Or you look in the shadows as
Yeah.
you're going past. Yeah.
So it's good.
And they have us play with, like, we don't really do drills, but there's stuff he'll have us do when we're skiing. He'll say, try skiing back here, try skiing here. He goes, somewhere in here, in this position, your quads will relax, and you'll have this little bit of balance. You know, you lean back a bit, you can feel the fatigue and feel your toes in the top of the boot. You go too far forward, you feel your calves, you know, you're a bit tighter back here, and so he said somewhere in here you'll feel it, and that's where you want to ski.
Where the muscles just relax, where the body kind of supports itself.
Yeah.
Great. So why don't we get on roller skis, and I'll see if I can tag some of this. So look for the quick hands. First part of the poling. Look for equal on each side. There's a car coming.
Okay.
Keegan, can I get you to say what you just said?
Sure. Well, in kind of going through technique and discussing it and different people's approaches, we realized that it's always been pushed hips forward, hips forward, hips forward. And if you really are focusing on your hips forward, you end up doing all the wrong things. Really, I mean, your hips get forward because you're doing things right. So for us, we think about our ankle flex, and that helps bring the hips forward. We think about kind of standing more upright in the hills, bringing the shoulders back a little bit. That brings the hips forward. So the position comes from doing the other things right, and not necessarily thinking hips forward. That'll kind of get you in the wrong position.
Yeah.
You've worked with Ulf before.
Yep.
And Ulf talks a lot about rounded shoulders. Does that fit in?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a Norwegian coach as well up there, and there's a lot of stuff that's very similar. Certainly in our up to speed double pull, our distance double pull, I'd say we get into that a bit. In the sprint side of things, there isn't the rounding.
Okay.
And the diagonal stride, certainly when we're, in a stretched out phase, that's going to exist. But climbing now, we're actually bringing our shoulders back, because watch where my hips go. As soon as I bring my shoulders back, they come right back underneath me. And for climbing, because of the angle change, now I'm able to put my grip here. If I was to stay here, how far would I be able to get my foot in front of me to get that sunken claw back? And so by going here, now I have that range of motion to get down on the ski and compress.
Okay.
So,
And in skating, I'd say it's more about your shoulders being relaxed, because if you think about rounding your shoulders too much, you're going to get in this position, and that's just going to drop your lower body more forward and your hips go back. So I'd say just kind of, like we think about kind of opening up the body, and naturally when you crunch your stomach, your shoulders will round. But I
Okay.
think, again, it's just thinking about the right mode, and then the shoulders will do what they need to do.
Okay.
But really opening up, getting that core over it, and then having a good crunch and over to the other side.
And one thing I noticed there with your left hand, you had it wide and elbow in fairly tight. Is that something that you guys, or is that just your own idiosyncrasy?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the terrain. I mean, something that coaches have worked on with me is actually bringing my hand in. Sometimes I let it get a little too wide.
Okay.
So for me, to bring the elbow in a little bit helps just really get the upper body over it. And when I V1, I mean, the steeper it gets, the more I get a little tighter in here. So, but yeah, everyone kind of has their own hand position a little bit.
mine
But
was huge in high school, I remember.
The more,
Oh,
you
yeah.
the more you can get it in tight and use the core, as opposed to trying to use this lever, the better off you're going to be.
That one, yeah, the arms. I always think if I was trying to, and Eric does it a bit, if I was trying to pull ropes down from the sky, I would never go like this.
Yep.
I'd try and grab here, and I'd probably go like that with it, and I'd drop my body weight as well. And that's the same idea. If you're dropping that, you get your hands here and you drop that force down into the poles. That's what we're looking for. You'd probably not go like this to try and pull a rope down, and that's what we're trying to get away
You
from.
only would once.
Yeah, yeah, with
That didn't work
successfully,
very well.
because he's trying to use as many muscles and body weight as possible. And if you're out here, it's a very small one, and if you're here, you're locked.
Your big